I had a hard time coming up with a juicy title for what might be perceived as a boring subject for today's show. After all, when you hear the term script analysis, you might feel like it's a throwback to a mundane, intellectual college lecture. What I want to chat with you about today is anything but. The ways you read and study a script for an audition or for a booking can have a significant impact on the results you're hoping for. In this episode of Casting Actors Cast, I'll apply the brakes and give you some tips on breaking down a script.
This is Casting Actors Cast. Here's your host, Jeffrey Dreisbach.
Well, hello, and welcome to today's episode of Casting Actors Cast. I'm Jeffrey Dreisbach. I'm a casting partner with McCorkle Casting in New York. Welcome to today's episode. I'm really looking forward to sharing some information about script analysis and breaking down a script so that you can find a better way to prepare for any audition or booking. But first, this is that moment of the podcast. I get to say thank you for tuning in. I also give my shout out to actorsconnection.com/New York. Actors Connection is a great place. They're all online now, coming up with a lot of really new and interesting classes. So if you haven't looked at Actors Connection, in a while, then this is the time to do it. Hello to my good friends Colleen and Tony. That's actorsconnection.com/New York. Also, I do have a favor. If you're enjoying what you're hearing on these podcast videos, then please leave a like, leave a share, please give a thumbs up. You know what would really be cool? A review wherever you're getting your podcasts, especially on like iTunes or any podcast provider. It really does make a difference. Plus, I have to say, ego-wise, it keeps me really motivated to continue to do these podcasts. I only want to make sure I can give you up-to-date information on what it is to be ready for acting opportunities that are out there. So we're talking about acting tips, acting styles. We're talking about business stuff for actors. We're also talking about, being a better person. We're also talking about self-care. So let's jump into the subject at hand. Oh, yeah, the last thing is the website, castingactorscast.com. castingactorscast, all one word, .com. And there's a little form that says dive into the talent pool if you're so inclined and you want a couple of freebies. I love having your name and email address, which by the way, I don't do anything with. I don't sell that information. You won't get any spam from me. You might get an occasional announcement or shout out about an upcoming episode, but that's about it. But when you fill out that form, it's going to open up some other freebies for you. One is a book on doing voiceover work called Conversation Pieces Out of the Studio, the voiceover workshop for professional actors. It's a 100-page PDF. It's a workshop manual with all kinds of exercises and really good copy and things that you're going to find really helping your confidence. And if you're interested in doing voiceover work, I think this is a must-have. And guess what? Hello, it's free. There's that. Plus, there is a free video called Casting Secrets, What They Don't Tell You. I put this together early on when I started these podcasts, these podios, and it's gotten really wonderful response from folks. So it's really just a 20-minute private video. You won't see it anywhere else, I promise you. So you can check that out. And that's just my way of saying thanks. All right, let's jump into the subject at hand. We need to talk about script analysis, and a lot of this information that I'm sharing with you today is based on my 20 years of being an actor prior to jumping into casting. I just learned so much as an actor that I can now share with you. Now that I'm in casting, I think it's even more valuable information because I understand the value and the importance of these tips now that I'm sitting on the other side of the table. So here are some common issues actors have when they look or they start reading a script. Maybe you've been given asides or maybe you've been given an entire script to read. Here's the thing I want to share. These are common mistakes that I think actors make when they are looking to read a script. One is they read only the part they've been asked to play. In other words, they skim the entire script and then they go only to their scenes. And I understand that. I used to do that 100%, especially when I was doing some soap opera work. It would be like, okay, how many lines do I have? And how much am I getting paid? And when is the shoot? And, it was really amazing that I got away with that because I probably shouldn't have. And somehow I ended up being able to be just fine with that. I'm wondering, though, if I had taken my own advice and done some of these tips, might I have had a different trajectory doing those projects? So obviously looking and for just your part, skimming the script just to kind of get the gist and then finding out your dialogue so that you can start working on that scene denies you so many interesting opportunities that the writer has given you. And so I really want to just put a word out to deciding to take your time with the script and reading the entire script. Here's another mistake that I also made. So once I learned that it wasn't a good idea just to read my part, I also started only reading the dialogue in the script while I was reading it. I decided, okay, I'm going to read the whole script, but now I'm just reading the dialogue. I'm just simply reading what is being said by the actors, and I'm not taking in the whole experience of the writing. The writer has gone to great lengths to give us a lot of information that might make a big, big deal difference in your auditioning or when you've booked the job and you show up on the set. Don't be surprised when you show up on a set and it looks like nothing you thought of because guess what? You didn't read that part of the script. So reading in the entire script and take in the entire experience of what that writer is giving you is just simply a good practice to get into. Here's another one. Rushing through to get through. Isn't that so true? It's like we wish that we could read faster because we could absorb more things more easily. And you know what? Our reading skill set is just what it is. The amount of time it takes you to read a script really amounts to your ability to comprehend everything that the writer is giving you. So be careful about not rushing through just to kind of get it done. It's not a task. It's an experience. So embrace the experience of not rushing through the script. Now, let me share with you the value of taking your time with the material. When you don't rush, there are some really valuable things that you discover when you take your time. Number one, you discover the mood of the writing. You understand by the setting what is contributing to the emotional components of that scene. And also, the circumstances under which the scene is taking place can really lend itself to some really interesting acting choices that you would never have discovered otherwise. Number two, absorb the writer's style. Absorb the writer's rhythm and the musicality of the dialogue. When you really get into the style of the writing and you discover the rhythm of the piece, the energy, and what I call the musicality of the dialogue, there's very specific sensibilities that the writer has provided each of these characters. And the way in which they speak can really be helpful. But all of it, style, rhythm, intention, musicality, all of that can really contribute to some interesting creative choices in your acting. Number three, I would like you to relate your own experience to the character's experience. So it's not just a matter of reading it and objectifying the situation by watching and seeing what's taking place on the script in an objective way, but how does that relate to you? How is it pushing buttons in you? How can you relate to that actual experience? When you can make those kinds of emotional connections in the script, you are already on the right road for embracing those character choices you might be asked to make when you are in the project, when you booked the job, when you are auditioning. So now let's move on to some other ways for analyzing the script. Here are some other ways that you can check out for yourself and feel really confident and really comfortable when you take a look at a script. If you've read all of those things to this point, all of those little tips I've given you, here is the best way for analyzing a script. You had to wait this long to get to the point. One, I want you to use and employ visualization. I want you to see the action and understand the characters' relationships by literally painting the picture in your mind of what's happening, what's taking place. Visualization is the cornerstone of allowing your creative self to connect with the material you're reading. You also understand the relationships of the other characters in a better and more profound way. Number two, this is something that you can try. I think it's really helpful, but a lot of folks just forget to do this. They put themselves into the story, when my suggestion is, number two, become an audience member. Don't live in the characters. Reverse that. Put yourself in place of an audience. What is the empathetic response coming from the characters that are affecting you as an audience member? That can be really helpful information and can really help shape and define the way you're going to play that part. So instead of trying to get into it and visualizing, try the opposite. Become an audience member and try to see how the story progresses. See the arc of the piece. And you're going to find it to be very valuable because you are now not putting yourself in, but now you are an observer. And that can trigger all kinds of really interesting choices for yourself as well. Here's another tip. Find the subtle hints that the script provides. Here are some examples. Subtle hints that the script will give you. Does the author give you an idea of music that might be in that scene or transitionally? What are the visuals? Sometimes the writer will write all kinds of interesting atmospherics in their work to give you a sense of the mood of what's taking place of that particular scene, but of the whole film, if it's a movie or a television show. Maybe you get some insight because of where the scene is taking place. You know, you're going to behave a lot differently if you are in a graveyard than you are in a gymnasium. See what I'm saying? So really, those can be not so subtle, but those can be subtle hints that the script is giving you. Here's another choice. I want you to read more than once with a different objective in mind. It's not just about reading the script a couple of times just so that you get an idea about the script. Really, if you come up with reading the script with a different objective in mind, you're going to reveal all kinds of additional information about that story being told, the energy of the piece. From the point of view of a particular character, the arc, the plot, all of those things, if they're given specific attention and focus, can really open up some fantastic choices for your acting. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about some preparation methods. These are actual practical things that you can prepare yourself when you have to read a script so that you can have the benefit of the best script analysis. See, this isn't so boring after all, right? Here's some preparation methods. One, I want you to try the first time you read a script, I want you to try to do it in one sitting. It's very challenging to kind of understand and invest your time in a script if you have to put it down to answer the phone, take the beef stew off the stove, feed the kid, go to class and come back later, reading in bed. All of those things are very, very challenging. So the first time you read the script, really try to carve out, if you can, I know it's hard, but try to carve out some time for yourself so that you can get a full understanding of the entire piece in one sitting. I think the reasons are obvious, but, and I don't want to kind of beat a dead horse, but when you distract yourself, it's very challenging to get back into the rhythm style, into the voice of the story that's being told. Number two, when you're reading the script for the first time or any subsequent time, make sure you're comfortable, make sure you're relaxed, and try to be unemotional when you start reading. Don't bring any of your own emotion into the script. Let the script happen to you. Don't try to impose your own emotional state into the script. Actors love to do that because that's kind of shorthand. That's kind of an easy way to get into a story, is to emotionalize everything that's taking place. When you can approach a script in an objective way, it really does help you re-render, good phrase, re-render your emotional state in a good way. Clearly, and I said this before, number 3, avoid distractions. Avoid distractions. Number 4, read any scene or passage that isn't completely clear to you again. In other words, reread any passage, any scene, any dialogue that isn't clear to you. It has to be 100% clear that you understand everything in that scene before you move on. Now, I'm not saying that you have to understand how to interpret the scene. I just mean you have to really understand the writer's intention on every moment of the project you're reading. It's only then that you'll get a clear understanding and a really good picture of how to proceed with that script. So when we let go of our emotional attachment while reading a script, we'll comprehend the bigger picture that has been given us by the author. It's only after that initial work that we'll be able to expose the choices and the behaviors that you might be asked to play. So there you have it, breaking down a script. You know what? It's an important skill set that can expose you to even more opportunities for success. So listen, put on the brakes and see what you can discover. I hope you've liked today's episode. If you have, please let me know. castingactorscast@gmail.com, castingactorscast.com, and I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining Casting Actors Cast. Please don't forget to review, like, and share Casting Actors Cast wherever you get your podcast videos. Thanks. I'm Megan Grace Martinez.